Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Americans for Prosperity family. We are live right now. Don't mess with your screens. This is a live broadcast. My name is Grant Henry, Grassroots Engagement Director in Middle Tennessee here with Americans for Prosperity. The fantastic graphics you're seeing on your screen and all the transitional slides and all the stuff that makes this look so smooth, of the production quality that it is, that is being run by the guy on the other end of this camera that you may not see this morning. His name is David Thompson. We'll give him a shout out shortly here after the broadcast as well. David Thompson's our Grassroots Director out in the Knoxville area. Well, we wanted to bring everyone in this morning sort of as a digital legislative recap, a way to sort of look back at this last year as to the bills that were passed, maybe a look forward into the bills that we'll work on next year, and then maybe also some of the bills that didn't pass this year. And to kick this off, the incomparable Representative Clay Doggett out of District 70, chairman of the Criminal Justice Subcommittee. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, sir. We really appreciate it.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Let me just start with this. For some in our audience that may not know you as well as either I do or some of the Americans for Prosperity team does, tell us a little bit about like who you are and primarily what brought you into politics.
Well, I'm a small business owner in southern Middle Tennessee, down in Giles County. In college, I double majored in history and political science, and really the political science part of it, I got interested in politics around that 2004 presidential election, started listening to a lot of talk radio and things, and going through the classes that I was in and having discussions and debates with classmates. I joined the debate team there on campus that year, and really began to have an interest in government and how things work. And so when I got out of college, I thought, one day if I ever have the opportunity to run for office, I think I'm going to try if it's something that would work for me and my family at the time. And so fast forward a little bit, I'd worked at the sheriff's department and here in Giles County, and then I left to run my business full time, and an opportunity arose for me to stick my neck out and put my name on the ballot to run for state office. And so we did, and it's been a good thing ever since. So.
And I say this without hesitation, y'all. Chairman Doggett is one of the true liberty champions in that building. In all sincerity, we say that, and we appreciate you for what you do up there. We appreciate you also for fully taking on that adage of we don't have a democracy. We have a democracy of those that participate. And Chairman, it's actually your history with law enforcement that makes this next bill even more interesting. Let's get into this victim restitution bill, a little bit in the vein of criminal justice reform, right? Of being smart on crime, soft on taxpayers type thing. Before we discuss what the bill actually does, could you give us a brief history as to like, where did you get the idea for this bill? What's the problem that this bill was trying to solve?
Okay. So when I worked in sheriff's, in law enforcement, the sheriff's office, we oftentimes I spent a lot of my days in court, in general sessions court specifically, taking on various cases that we had. And in general sessions court, you'll see everything from traffic tickets to assault cases, to thefts, to burglaries, to vandalisms, you name it. It's a wide variety of cases that'll be heard in court on those days. And one thing I always noticed, and it really never dawned on me until I got into politics, was that victims, when they end up in court, maybe they were a victim of burglary or theft or vandalism, or even checks that were insufficient funds that ended up bouncing back to a business. The way the court system was set up is that the offender they may be placed on probation, they may end up getting some jail time, but they were always tagged with fees and fines and court costs and litigation taxes. And at the very end, when it was all said and done, the victims who were there because they were the victim of a crime were never made whole. They never had the opportunity to do so. Fast forward 2 years ago, conversation started with Tori from AFP, along with a gentleman from Department of Corrections, when we were asking questions about how do we help make victims whole. And right now, currently in the prison system in Tennessee, when an inmate works, they collect whatever monies that they would be paid for that work, and it's set aside, and they put that in a victims fund for them to help repay restitution as a condition of their parole to get out. They start sending, and it's small amounts of money. But we thought, well, why can't we do this on the front end? Why is it that court costs and fees and fines and litigation taxes always get paid first, and the victim is left holding the bag trying to collect? Because maybe the offender did not go to prison. Maybe they were placed on probation. Well, as a condition of their probation, they don't have to make restitution payments. They just have to pay their probation fees and their fines and their court costs and their litigation taxes. And the victim is still a victim. And so we had this idea, and it was really tough to try to make it all come together, to make it put it in the best posture to get this thing through. But what ended up happening was we reprioritized in our state law as how those fines and fees are paid out. And so now victims' restitution comes first. They can get that first before the fines and fees and court costs are paid.
I know DA Crump in particular was one that was really vital in helping moving this bill along. And he tells a hypothetical this way to prove Chairman Doggett's point here. Imagine, say, a defendant stealing $1,000 from a victim. When the defendant is convicted, he's ordered to pay restitution back to the victim. However, the defendant must pay court costs first, which typically depletes most or some of that $1,000 that the defendant stole from the victim. The defendant then must also pay litigation fees. Lastly, the defendant pays the victim his or herself. So basically, the scenario we just painted there is that defendant just used the victim's $1,000 they stole from the victim, just used that $1,000 to pay the court's operating costs, the judge's pension funds, and the victim is then just sort of left holding the bag, right? Because the judge's pension funds come from those litigation fees. So you see sort of the all-encompassing area of how prioritizing those victim restitution payments first solves a multitude of problems by making that victim whole. And to move this along here, Chairman, tell me, did you encounter any problems while working on this bill? Did you have any opposition at all? Any hurdles you had to overcome?
Sure. Last year we had the Clerks Association, the court clerks. They're the ones that end up collecting the money. Now, I don't know about every county in the state, but I'm very confident in saying that they're a fee office. So means the monies that they take in from the defendants to pay those court costs, fines, and fees and litigation taxes, some of those monies go directly to the clerk's office, and that's how they staff people. That's how they get their computers and their telephones and everything that goes into that office. And so they were kind of upset because they thought that they were going to take a hit on how much monies that they were able to collect and what it was going to do to them. And so that was one of the big pushes that we had, the opposition. The other was with the judges. They wasn't sure how they were going to be able to do this. They didn't know if they didn't know how it could be implemented, which originally we had some other pieces and parts to it as well. But what we ended up settling on was the cleanest way to do it, the easiest way to do it, and really and truly the most common sense way to do it. And that was just by reprioritizing where we go in that list and putting victims first. And based off of some of the numbers that we've seen in our research, is that it's really a very small amount of monies that will end up being. Sorry about that.
No worries.
It'll end up being a very small amount of monies that come out. So it's not really going to have that big effect on the clerk's office. But what it does is it helps those victims who that need this to be able to get that restitution. I've got constituents who, when we were going through this process, would call me and tell me, I hope this bill passes because I had a theft of $2,500 and never did get anything out of it. They were ordered restitution, but I've got to go and collect it myself. I've got to garnish their wages. I've got to levy property. I've got to do this and that. So they were hoping this would go through so they would have an opportunity to catch it on the front end before it got through on the end.
And I would urge everyone watching now or possibly watching this playback in the future, go to Facebook, type in State Representative Clay Doggett, State Representative Clay Doggett. It's actually Chairman Doggett's, official Facebook page. But the first posting I'm looking at here is your sort of recap, if you will, this past legislative year, right? Saying that as we adjourn, this is my capital review. You can click on that and show a rundown of some of the bills that passed, some of the bills that didn't pass. So in that vein, in sort of the last 5 to 10 minutes we have here, Chairman, tell me, what are you excited about working on next year?
Well, next year I've got a few things that we're looking at doing, mostly around some. I'm probably going to let the cat out of the bag here, but taxes that we end up sending to Washington, D.C. as a state. And right now it looks like the fuel tax might be the most beneficial way to do it. Not 100%, but we're still looking at kicking around the idea, because we collect this money as a state, then we send it off to Washington, and they take it and do all this stuff with it, and then they sprinkle it back out at the states. And so, if we can hold on to some of this money, not spend it, not use it for anything, but just kind of hold it, and see what happens from there.
One final question then on the way out here. Was there any bills that didn't pass this last year that you wish would have passed? Maybe something that's still left around that could be worked on next year as well?
Right. Well, one of the big things that several of my colleagues and I have apparently all share the same interest in was this idea of our 10th Amendment rights as a state. And so I had a bill that would create a commission. We called it a commission on federalism. We would look and examine laws, executive orders, anything that comes down out of Washington that would be applicable to our state. And then we would look at that and match it up and see if it fits, if it fits within the confines of the 10th Amendment, if it's something that we can say, we're not going to do this, we're going to nullify this. And there were several other members that kind of had the same idea and concept. We all had the same idea. We were just taking different roads to get there. And that bill ended up failing. So it failed in the Senate. We worked hard on it in the House, but the Senate never did take it up. It failed in their committee. But we did have some to pass through that did some things. I'm not sure if they have actually used that committee yet. I haven't heard. I'd asked to be on that, but I have not heard as far as if it's something that's come to fruition yet or not.
And here's the bill that Chairman Doggett's talking about. It's House Bill 693, if you want to look at it yourself. House Bill 693, to establish a committee made of members of the House and Senate to review new executive laws and orders from the federal government and make a comment on their constitutionality, bring those recommendations to the General Assembly, and require the Attorney General to take up suit. This is the bill that Chairman Doggett just spoke about here. And I want to be respectful of your time, sir. Again, we thank you so much for giving us a bit of that time this morning. But on the way out, anything you want to tell anybody else that we might have missed, anything they should look forward to, anything you just want to leave them with?
Hey, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to have me. I really do appreciate the work that AFP does, and especially in Tennessee. When I first put my name on the ballot, I got an invitation for a meeting in Franklin, and I think it was called it was a vision. It wasn't Capital Visionaries. It was what's the other one?
Capital Leaders.
Maybe that's what I can't remember which one it was. I get confused on the name sometimes, but there was 7 or 8 of us prospective legislators who were going to be running and campaigning in the next election cycle. And we were there, and we met for 3 weeks, 3 nights, for 3 weeks. And man, it was awesome. It lit a fire under me. It made me think of things that I'd never thought of before. It was very beneficial. I'd also went to some of there was a training that was done by some folks. They come from out of state, and it was through AFP. They did some training up around the Clarksville area. I believe it was a one-day camp, election camp, or candidate boot camp or something like that I went to and really enjoyed that too. So AFP really has done a lot for me, helping me with my initially, before I was even elected, helping me get in the right direction. And then since being up there in the State House, have been a tremendous asset and resource on legislation. It's always a joy to have AFP contact you when there's key votes, key legislation that they're looking at, to help go through it, break it down, explain it to you, the pros and the cons, and everything that you need to know. So I just want to say thank you for what you do, and for letting me be a part of it.
Well, Chairman Doggett, you truly do embody what it means to be a representative in a constitutional republic. And if you've enjoyed this part of the program, if you enjoy what we're doing here, these sort of digital legislative recaps, we'll be doing several more of these as we move forward in the weeks with several different representatives, members of the House and Senate as well. So for myself, David Thompson, I'm signing off now for the entirety of the Americans Prosperity team. We will see you next time. And again, one more time, thank you, Chairman Doggett, for your time. See you again. Goodbye.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.